Good afternoon, everybody. We are still on Linux. In the last session, we were able to take a look at some file maintenance commands. We're able to look at permissions, right? We're also able to look at how we can create, add, and soft links. We'll see how important they are as we proceed with the program, especially when it comes to soft links. Okay, so we'll get to see how important these are. So what we want to do now is to continue with our our file maintenance commands. And once we are done with that, we'll look at some text editing commands, right? Remember, we talked about text editor and we delved into it a little, okay? So we'll now go into details, okay? So what we want to do now is let's go ahead and check our server. Let's take a look at our server. XM. Let's look at our server. What is this? Okay. So let's start a new session. SSH. So that's gonna be, let's sign to a different address, February 2023. Let's pick the password. Okay, so now that we are here, what we want to do is to get our instance running so that we can run more commands, more Linux commands. So at the moment, you can see there are no instances running. So what you do is when you are done with working on the server, so it's advisable to shut down to stop the server. Okay, you can see the instance state right now is stopped. Okay, you want to ensure you stop it when you are not using it so that you won't get billed. You know, when you are used to doing this now with the free tier eligible, so when it's time to use the non-free tier eligible, you're already used to that practice of stopping a server you are not using. But in the course of real work, you won't need to be stopping your server because the server needs to be up and running, okay? But for practice, we are not making money yet, so that's why we need to stop the server when we are not using them, okay? So we can either go here and start from inside, or we could have checked the checkbox and select start instance from out there as well. So that's also a possibility. So I'm just waiting for the public IP address to come up, because it's with the public IP address I can log into the remote server. That's my EC2 instance. Elastic Computer in the cloud, right? Elastic Compute Cloud. So I've copied that. So what I want to do now is come here and add remote host, specify username, EC2-user. Please open advanced SSH settings. I want to use our private key to unlock the door to our server. February 2023 DevOps class. Okay, so I click on OK. I'm in. So that's clear using the clear command. Okay, so we are in. So this is our Linux server. And see, in the last class, we're able to create the hard link and the soft link out of a file called list. So when we deleted the hard link, when we deleted the source file, that's the list file, we realized that the hard link remained, whereas the soft link became empty, right? It wasn't linking to anything any longer, okay? So that is what happened during the last session. Now that we've created link, right? We also understand how permission works, okay? There's something called umask. Umask, okay? Umask value is seen as 0022, okay? That's umask value. If you recall, during the last session, we talked about directory permission being 755. You can see D, right? Directory permission being 755 by default, and 644 for file by default, okay? So if you see something, okay, if you see something, you see that this is 755. So the maximum possible permission, if this guy, if group add, okay, you can see, if group add write permission, it would have been 2 here, okay? So the maximum possible would have been 7, right? So maximum possible permission, let me just put that here. Maximum possible, right, is 7. Then this would have been 4 plus 2 plus 1, right? 7. And this would have also been 4 plus 2 plus 1, 7, right? Okay. That is the maximum permission. Okay. For a file, the maximum permission, okay, the maximum permission here see, the maximum permission here would have been, since for files, we're talking about read and write, right? It says 6. Here, maximum permission, you're talking about read and write, talking about another 6. And the maximum permission here is also another 6. Okay? So if you deduct 755 from 777, you are going to have, if you deduct that, okay, you are going to have 7 minus 5, 2, right? 7 minus 5, 2, another 2. 7 minus 7, we have 0. Then we proceed it with 0. Okay? So this is umask. Umask value is the difference between the default permission or the permission and the maximum possible permission. You can see that is the UMask value. The default permission and the maximum possible permission, okay, which is like saying 777 minus 755, that is 22. That is UMask, okay? So if you come here as well, you can also say 666 minus 644, okay? So UMask here is also 22, okay? You proceed it with 0, 0, okay? Now, if you recall something, I just did something before coming to this place to do this calculation, okay? Remember we got this yesterday, right? Read is 4, write is 2, execute is 1, okay? So we got 775 permission as the default permission for a directory, okay? And the default permission for a file is 644. We also saw that, right? We created a file, we saw what it is, okay? But when you look at this, the maximum possible permission for a directory here is 777, and we've seen how that is obtainable, right? So it means, oh, it's also possible for this guy to have a read permission, right? Write permission. And it's also possible for others to also have write permission. So that's how we got the additional 2 we added to this to get the 77 permission. Now, UMask is the difference between the default permission and the maximum permission, okay? You see how we got this mathematically, right? Now, we come up to the server, right? We come up here to the server. We say, oh, default permission, okay, is, okay, default for normal user, the UMask value, okay, you can see we got 0022 here, okay? So what happens if we switch to root user? If we switch to root user, okay, right, sudo su, if we switch to root user, sudo su, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so if we switch to root user, right, switch to root user, and we check UMask, okay, you see UMask is 0022, okay? So for any reason, if we want to change a UMask value from what it is to something else, okay, we can also achieve that, okay? We can achieve that by changing the UMask value, okay? Right now, UMask value is 0022, okay? If we exit now, right? Now we've exited. ls-l, okay? You see, it is, okay, 644 and 755 permission, okay? So if we decide to say we do not want our UMask to be 0022, but we want our UMask to be something else, right? We could say we want to set our UMask value to 0000, okay? If you do this, UMask, right, and say we want it to be 0000, you know. By default, as we check now, we saw it is 0022. If you want to change it to 0000, what this means is that you'll be giving maximum permission to both files and directories that are created, okay? You can reset your UMask value from what it is by default by specifying what you want it to be, okay? So if I say, for example, I want my UMask to be 0000, right? So what this means is that anytime I come here to check UMask, now I've used this, the command I used up here, UMask 0000, I've used it to set my UMask from 0022 to 0000, okay? So if I now come here and say UMask, I'll see that what I'll see here is 0000. So now, if you remember, we've made directories, okay? We've also created files. And see, the directory we created before, without changing anything, right? You can see it's a 755 permission, right? And the file was a 644 permission. So if we do this now, which we have done, we've changed UMask from 0022 to 0000, okay? If we decide to create another file, mkdir, and we say match class, right? Let's say we are creating a directory, okay? Match class, okay? I want to also create another file. Let's call this file. Let's create a file, list2. Let's say we are creating list2, right? List2.txt, right? List2.txt, okay? So if you create this as well, you see, we've created a directory using the mkdir command to make directory. And we've also touched a file. We've created a file using the touch command, okay? So remember, the command we ran here was ls-l, wanted to see a long list, right? Wanted a list, but a long list, right? So if we decide to run that command again, ls-l, we'll see that there's a new directory and a new file, okay? So, but let's take a look at what the default here was, right? You can see it's a 755, okay? But we've changed the UMask. So changing the UMask, let's see the effect on what we are just creating now. So if you see that the file that we just created is list2.txt, right? Look at it, list2.txt. If you look at the permission for list2.txt, let's copy this, okay? Let's copy this and move it here. Links, okay? UMask. It's good to have it here. Okay. See, this is a file that we just created, right? After setting up the UMask at 0000, right? You can see. So the file that we created, this is what we got. Let's go and copy the directory that we created as well. Okay, so if we come here and we copy the directory, you can see the directory is now an executable directory. That is why you see it this way, right? Because it has a 777 permission, okay? So it is not advisable for any reason to give a 777 permission, because even people that are not the owner or the group members will also have access to all functionalities, read, write, and execute, okay? So what we want to do is to copy this, which we've done, and paste it there as well, okay? Just a minute. Sorry. Okay, so now that we have this, we see that the permission structure has changed just because we went further to set this up as it is now. Okay, you can see we've come here and set the UMask value from the default. Okay, so after changing the UMask value, okay, the default was 0022 to 0000. This is what we have. You see, this is what we have after changing the UMask value from what we had here. Okay, from what we had there to what we have now. Okay, we can see the value has affected the permission. So unlike then, when we had for file, okay, for file, what we had was a read write, which is 4 plus 2 plus 0, okay. And for this other one, we also had 4 plus 0 plus 0. But this time around, we now have 4 plus 2 plus 0, okay. Then finally, we have 4 plus 2 plus 0, okay. So this brings the permission to 666 permission, okay, for file. For file, okay. And yeah, what we had was a 644 permission, okay. Remember when the default UMask was 0022, okay. So if we go ahead and scroll down a bit, okay, and let's take a look at this, okay. Let's take a look at this, okay. So if you look at this directory, for example, and you come down, okay, you will see that it is a 4 plus 2 plus 1 permission for owner, 4 plus 2 plus 1 permission for group, then 4 plus 2 plus 1 permission for others, okay, which brings it to a 7 plus 777 permission, okay. Now, with the 777 permission, okay, so how does this affect UMask? How does it help in arriving at UMask? So the permission we have now is exactly the maximum possible permissions, okay? For file, for example, the maximum you can have is 6, 6, 6. This is the maximum, right? Maximum permission. Okay. For this, the maximum permission is 777. That's the maximum permission. Right? Maximum permission. 777. Okay. So if you deduct 666 plus 777, you get a UMask value of 000. Okay. That's the UMask value. Okay. So the UMask value is a determinant of the permission. Okay. That's a 000 UMask value. Okay. That's by deducting 777 from the maximum possible permission, which is also 777. You get the UMask value. Okay. So this is how you get the UMask value. Okay. So just for us to see, you see, if I come here, I say UMask, tells me my UMask is 000. Okay. Now, this will lead us to something else. Okay. If you recall, right, if you recall, we changed the UMask value from the default, okay, to something else, okay? So let's say we want to restore it to what it was. We run the UMask command again and say UMask is, what should it be this time, right? 0022, which was the original default UMask value before the change, okay? So if I say, okay, so if I check UMask now, you see that it's already 0022. But some things have happened, right? If I do ls-l, whatever we created, with the file or directory we created, will their permissions change? No, the permissions will remain the way they were, given what the UMask value was as at that time, okay? But if we create a new one now, the permission is going to be 644 and 755 respectively. However, we might be in a situation, not just because we change UMask value, but this is a very familiar situation where within the organization, you will be prompted to change the permission of a file or directory, okay? Just because you want to ensure that there is extra security, okay? You might want to change a permission to read only, right? And the only person that should be able to read should just be the owner of the file, okay? So if you remember, read is 4, right? Write is 2, execute is X is 1, right? So if I want a read-only file, okay, if I want to make this file, okay, let's see, let's copy this file, for example, or the one we just created. It's better we look at the one we just created. If we look at this file right now, right, you see this file. If we bring it here and we say, let's make this particular file read only. To make this file read only, okay, want it to be read only for the user, okay, but for the group, okay, there's no read permission, there's no permission, okay. For the others, there's also no permission, okay. So to achieve that, we say we want to change from write here to dash, okay. This one, you want to change it from read write to dash dash, right? And this one, you want to change it from this to this, okay? So this is a possibility. You want it to be read-only, only by who? By the user, the main user. Nobody else should even have a read access, okay? So to achieve that, what we are trying to get is that we are trying to get a 4 plus 0 plus 0, 0 plus 0 plus 0, 0 plus 0 plus 0, okay? This is what we are trying to achieve. We are trying to achieve a 400 permission, right? This is something possible. And I'm sure we are familiar with it without remembering that we've actually come across it, okay? So we can change a permission, okay? We can change a permission from what it is, okay, to something else, okay? We can change a permission from 666 to 400. Let me show you an example before we dive into this, okay? Before we dive into this, let's show this, okay? Okay, so let's quickly take a look at our AWS server, okay? So if you remember, I mentioned that we can connect to our server using the SSH command, right? So if you click on connect here, you will see an option called SSH client, right? If you click on this, look at this, you can see, you can use this to connect. But before then, look at this step saying show mode 400 February 2023 DevOps class.pem. Okay, this here is the file name. This here is a permission 400, right? This is a permission, and this here is a command. Show mode command is used to change the permission of a file. Okay, use this show mode command to change the permission of a file. So to use show mode, what we need to do, for example, is to come in here. Let's go to the directory, the file. Okay, look at this file. The current permission for this file is 666. But if we want to change it to 400, as we demonstrated here, okay, as we demonstrated here, we want to make it look like this: r dash 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 dash. So there's a formula we use, okay, and that formula is the show mode command. Okay, the show mode command. We use the show mode command to change the permission of a file or directory. Okay, so to do that, we come here, we say show mode. Okay, at least we've seen how a use case up there. Show mode, what we want to change it to, can change it to 400, or we can even say we want read across. And that case will be 444, right? But let's just explore, right? 400, and we can say, okay, aside this, what is the file name? List2 list2.txt, right? List2.txt, okay? So list2.txt. So now that we have this setup, if we just do enter, you see that you can smell success, right? Because we didn't see any error message and all of that. Shows that everything has gone our way, right? So let's do ls-l to check the long list. Okay, you see that the permission has changed to what we demonstrated on our VS Code. You can see our permission is now looking like this. So we have a 400 permission. Okay, now usually we can do the same thing to change the permission of a file, of a directory. Okay, you can see the permission of our directory at the moment is read write execute, read write execute. We might want to change it to read write execute. One change, we might say we want to change it to just read write execute 700. I want to say we want a 700 permission. Okay, that's a possibility. Okay, so to achieve a 700 permission, right, it's also a possibility. So how do we achieve that? Okay. To achieve our 700 permission, okay, so what we need to do is to say we want to change this to dash dash dash, get 0 over there. I also want to change this to dash dash dash, right? So this will give us a 700 permission, right? This will give us a 700 permission, right? So this will give us a 700 permission. So to achieve 700 permission, okay, see this read write execute, this 000, this 000. So technically, we are looking at a 700 permission, right? You can see permission. This is 700 permission. Now, looking at this, we have a 700 permission. To change the permission, okay, of a directory as well, let's see, okay, we can do show mode, okay, but this time around, we are changing to 700, right? Changing to a 700 permission. And we can proceed to specifying the directory name, right? Class, okay. So once we do this, we run this, you can see we can smell success already, okay? ls-l. You can see it's now a 700 permission, and you can see this has changed, okay? Because others cannot execute, right? You can see it has changed, okay? So now that we have this, it is not impossible, okay? If you look at what we have here, let's run the tree command, okay? Running the tree command, you see that we have a directory that has other subdirectories, okay? But the thing is, running a show mode on a directory, the way we've run it here, we successfully change the mode as we expect. However, in a situation where you have subdirectories and other direct files, right, inside here, you will realize that the impact will only be felt on the directory outside here. However, if you want every subdirectory to also be affected, right, by the change you are making to this, okay? If you are changing this, okay, if you are making a change, okay, to, for example, class underscore 101 underscore 101, for example, if you do this, the impact is only going to be on class 101. However, if you want any change you are making to affect every other component that you have in here, you need to make the change recursively by passing a -r, capital R flag, okay? So if you do this, you realize that as you are changing the permission for this, it is also affecting the permission for this, and for every other thing, okay? So that is how that works, okay? So what I want us to do is that before running this, let me just put hash in front so that it doesn't run, like making it a comment, okay? Now, if I do this, this command won't run, okay? Okay, so I've done that. So I want us to cd to class 10_101, okay? Switch to this location. If you do ls-l right now, you see the different permissions, right? 755, 644, right? You can see the permissions they have now, okay? So let me do cd, and I want to move a step up, right? Dot, dot. Now, remember that command that we didn't run? Now we want to run that command. I'll come here and remove the hash, okay? So you can see what the permissions are looking like right now, okay? So if I run this now, right, I'm running it recursively so that every other content of the directory is also affected by this change, okay? So I do this, okay? Now that I've done that, if I go back to, I want to go back to where I was coming from. If I do cd dot dot, it's going to take me a step up, right? But I want to go to the directory I'm coming from, okay? I run cd dash, right? So it takes me back into 101, right? Class 101. If I do my ls-l, let's take a look at this. You can see what it's looking like, right? We do our ls-l again, okay? You see that the permissions have changed across, right? You can see even the file now has, the file is now executable, right? You can now see the file has a 700 permission, right? Even the directory has a 700 permission, okay? You can see this is what is possible, right? You can change mode and you can also change mode recursively. Now, just as we've changed mode, okay, there's also something we can change. If you remember, the last time when we went to root, okay, we went to root, okay, during the last session, we cd to root and went to etc directory where we created 2 files and 2 directories, which we called ensure, right? So if you come here, we are in etc now. We've moved to etc. You can see cd to /etc, right? I know the absolute part. That's why we're able to move in there, okay? So if we do our ls right now, you see that we created, let's see, we created 2 files and 2 directories. Created ensure.txt and this, okay? So if we come and do our long list, ls-l, okay, let's do, okay, now, if you remember, when we're trying to understand ls-l, we looked at ls-l, we made a long list, okay? This is a very long list that has arranged the content of this directory alphabetically. But this is difficult. I need to scroll up. Remember, we had to scroll up yesterday to locate ensure file, right? Now, I want us to see the reasoning behind each of these commands. So remember, we said there's also ls long list based on the timing, right? If we do this, we can see that we also still don't see those files. Where we see them, will be right at the top, right? We have to travel and stress to get them. You can see ensure. This is the ones we created yesterday, right? You can see this yum repos and all of that was because we installed something. We must have installed 3 after setting this up, okay? So yum repos, okay? That's why this was updated. But this is difficult, scrolling up, right? You can imagine, what if we had more files and directories in this directory, okay? It would have been difficult, right? You see, the first time we ran this, okay? The next time we ran this, but now we want to run them based on time, but in a reverse manner, okay? So that the one that was recently updated is the one that we see at the bottom and is easily accessible. You can see right here, I don't have to scroll up to get access to my file, okay? So if you look at this, you can see the owner, okay, is root. The group is root, okay? And over there, we've seen how it is possible for us to change the permissions of a file using, or directory, using the show mode command to change the mode, right? Also, we can change ownership, okay? We can change ownership of a file or a directory, okay? You can change ownership of a file or directory, okay? You can change ownership of a file or directory, okay? So let us say we look at this file, okay? Which file? The one we created, okay, earlier, ensure.txt. You can see the ownership is root, the group is root. To change the ownership, you can guess, use the shown, change owner, right? Show own command, okay? I want to change ownership from root to ec2-user, right? I want the ownership of this file, ensure.txt, to be ec2-user, okay? So if I go ahead and say ensure.txt, right? I'm going to get a permission denied error because I'm trying to do something that only extremely powerful people should be doing. And when doing it, I should be using sudo. But if I go ahead and run this without sudo, you can see it says operation not permitted because changing of ownership, you can see show own, changing of ownership of ensure.txt, operation not permitted. But now I know I can do these things, right? Because I've been empowered to do it. So I've been empowered. So all I need to do is to add sudo to the command, okay? Sudo will now make it possible. Sudo, okay? Okay, so I do this, okay? So if I now run my ls-ltr, okay? You can see the owner of this file is now ec2-user.
Good question.
And the group is still root. Okay. I'm with you.
The sudo go with trust? What I'm
Yes,
trying to say is, if I give you that power, I must
yeah,
have trust in you, right?
definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You will get to see as we proceed in this program, some of the commands we start running is how to add users. You know, as a Linux administrator within an organization, okay, you will be able to add users, okay? So these users, you will now, based on the trust you have, give them sudoers powers, okay? So we also show and demonstrate how to give sudoers powers, okay? But right now, the normal user that comes with EC2, this instance is EC2-user, and by default, it comes with that power.
Okay.
That is why we are able to do all of this for now, okay? We'll
All
create
right.
users that can't do anything. Okay, all right, so great. So this is
Okay.
all about
Thank you.
trust. You'll even
Right.
see it that as we go on, you see it says, with great power comes great responsibility. You see some
Right.
notifications like that as we
Okay.
proceed.
All right. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So now you can see we are able to use this sudoers power, right, to change ownership of a file, right? Now, also, we can also change the group, okay? Just as we've changed ownership, you can also change group, okay? To change group, okay, what we need to do is to say, instead of using the show own, okay, command, we use change group. This is the command, show group. Okay, you can use it to change the group. We want to change this from root to whatever, but it has to be a user, a group that is in existence. Okay, so we can come here and say change group from what it is to ec2-user for which file? ensure.txt, right? Change it. But to change it, remember, you need that superpowers, right? Sudo. Okay. Now, what I also want to refresh our memory on is that, if you remember, when we're looking at the file directory structure, right? When we're looking at directory structure, we talked about the /bin directory. And we said here is where we find binaries for all users, right? All users. And here in SBin, we find systems binaries, okay, for root users, okay? So where you will find commands like show group, show own, and all of those is going to be in this SBin directory. Whereas commands like clear, ls, mkdir, you find them in the /bin directory. This is just to refresh our memory about something we've done. Now we are able to relate some things with what we are doing now, okay? So let's go back and look at this, okay? So I want to change group from root to ec2-user, okay? So this sudo is not part of the command. The command is show group, but we need sudo to be able to run this, okay? Now, what are we changing the group to? We are changing it to ec2-user, and the file name is ensure.txt. So if I run this now, and I do my ls-ltr, because I want to be able to see what we've done recently, you can see ownership has been changed. Also, group has been changed. Okay, ownership has been changed. Also, group has been changed. But this seems like a long process. Okay, and we only need this if we are trying to maybe change group alone or change owner or all of that, right? Specifically, maybe we want to change group or want to change owner. But what happens if we want to change both owner and group simultaneously? Is that also a possibility? Yes, it is. But let's go and refer to a command we've run before. Remember, when we ran this command, it changed ownership, right? But let's say I want to change for ensure2.txt. Remember, we created two files, right? Ensure2.txt. If we run this as it is, it's going to just change the ownership, right? But not change the group. But if we want this command as it is to change both owner and group, it is also possible. All we need to do is to scroll to this end where we have user, ec2-user. We specified the owner, okay? Then we put column and specify the group that we want it to be. Okay, so we are using one stone to kill two birds, right? Right now, if you look at ensure2.txt, you see roots and roots, okay? But now what I've only done is to say I'm changing ownership, right? I'm changing the owner, column, the roots, the group, okay? So if I do this, I will realize that something will happen, okay? So I've done this. It looks as if we have a success, okay? So if we do our ls-ltr, you see that that command we ran was able to change our user, owner, as well as the group, okay? We've been able to achieve that, right? So if we also go further and say, okay, we also want to do the same for a directory, right? We can change a directory ownership the same way we did by changing owner alone and changing group. And we can even go forward further by changing them simultaneously, right? So let's say I want to change this ensure directory, this one here, this one, you can see root is what we have now. Let's say I want to just change the directory. Okay. You see, if you do your ls-ltr, see that has also changed. Okay, but if you remember, we talked about recursively changing something recursively so that if there's any content, right? Let's say, for example, we want to put a content in here, right? Let's put something here. Okay, we put something in here and we want it to affect all the contents, right? we can say touch. Let's put sudo because of where we are. We are in the /etc directory. Okay, it's going to prompt us to sudo mkdir, for example. Okay, so sometimes this sudo is also because of the location. You are trying to create something somewhere, right, that you don't have power to. Okay, so it will prompt for sudo. Let's say mkdir. We want to create something inside ensure2 because we are right here, ensure2, right? And say mkdir in that directory, ensure2. Let's say we want to call this, HS, right? Let's just call this HS, okay? You can see it's saying permission denied. You can see make directory is in the bin directory, right? It's not, it's anybody can run mkdir, okay? But because we are trying to make a directory inside a place we shouldn't be creating directory, right? This directory contains configuration files, okay? We are just exploring, that's why we are here, okay? So it wants to be sure that I actually know what I'm doing. Why are you here? Are you supposed to be creating directory here? Okay, so I know what I'm doing. I want to put sudo. So I put in my sudo, right? And say mkdir, okay? So this time around, if you notice something, right? If you remember, when we're making directories, we were using the -p flag, right? To be able to make directories like this, by putting slash and all of that. But this time around, we are only trying to make one directory, HS. And we want to place HS inside ensure2 that already exists. That is why we are able to make this directory like this. If ensure2 was not in existence, and we try to make this directory this way, it will not work. We need to put the -p flag, okay, between here and here, -p, okay? So this is just to show you some possibilities, okay? Now, if you do ls-l, you want to see what you have in ensure, want to see the permissions for ensure2, right? Or want to even see the ownership, right? You see that it's also root, okay? ls-l and say ensure2 -hs, the directory we just created. You can see it's showing us that, okay, there's nothing in HS, right? So, but if we come here and check inside ensure2, you can see the ownership is root, the group is also root for HS. This is the directory we just created. You can recall the directory we just created. So now, if we want to run that recursively, remember we talked about recursively, right? Ensure2, okay? We want to change ownership and group, but this time we want it to affect the content of ensure2, right? You can see, want this root and root to also be, you know, for HS, want this and this to also be ec2-user and ec2-user respectively, right? So we can introduce the -r flag, capital R, okay? That's to run it recursively so that everything inside will also be affected, okay? So as we proceed with this program, you see we are using these commands, show on -r, you know, when we are running scripts and all of that, then you start to appreciate what we've done now, okay? So what we are going to do is that we want to run that recursively, okay? So now that we've run it recursively, if we do check the content, right? Once you see the content of ensure2, you will see that inside ensure2, we have HS. And you see that instead of having root and roots that we saw earlier, you see what we have. Because we ran it recursively, you can see it has changed to EC2-user and EC2-user. However, if we check the main one, okay, you realize that running ls-ltr, okay, we want to see that this also has changed from what it is here to EC2-user and EC2-user. You can see the time, okay, it was created. You can see ensure2. If you run this, you can see ensure2 here has also changed. You can see EC2-user and EC2-user. But you notice something, that it has brought it to the bottom. Now, the reason why it has brought it to the bottom is because we just made a modification to that directory today. We created the content inside that directory. So the last updated date is today. You can see February 12, okay? And that was because we created HS inside ensure2, okay? So when you run with ls-ltr, it brings the most recent one to the bottom so that it can be easily accessible, okay? So it brings it to the bottom so that it can be easily accessible. Now that we've done this, let's take a look at something else. We want to look at something else and another approach, right, of changing ownership and changing modes. You know, we've looked at the general approach. There are also other ways, right, that we can do this, okay? There are other ways we can also do this, okay? To add, change permissions, for example. So now that we are done with this, I want us to leave this location. We need to be careful here in this directory so that we don't mess up anything, okay? So now let's go back home, okay? CD takes us home, okay? Now that we are at home, you can see what we have here. Let's run our tree command. You can see these are the directories and the files we have, okay? So if we go inside this directory, for example, okay? If we go inside this directory and we look at this and we say, okay, let's cd to that directory. cd is change directory, okay? Change directory to that directory, class_101. We are in there now. ls, okay? You can see these are the items we have. If we run ls-lt here, ls-l is enough. There are not so many. You can see that this file has a read, write, execute permission. This one also has a read, write, execute permission. If for some reason, okay, we want to change these permissions from read, write, execute, okay, and we just say, oh, we don't want execute here, right? You don't want execute for users. This relates to users, RWX, right? And I say, oh, I don't want execute for users, okay? You can run this command, okay? Here we don't need sudo, okay? Okay, we can come here, show mode, okay? Just changing permission here, okay? Can I say show mode? Did I say, okay? Show mode. We can say minus, you can see X. You can see the way we are using it. Minus, okay? We can say show mode. Here we are looking at user, right? User, okay? For this user, we want to remove executable permission. U is user, G is group, O is others. So we can say Ugo, right? Ugo. User, the first tree, that's the owner. Group is the G. O is the others. That's Ugo from Ugochukwu, right? So, but you alone is what we are concerned with, right? Concerned with this U, okay? And we want to remove executable permission, okay? And we can even say we want to remove more than executable permission. We might say want to remove even all permissions, right? Can even say we want to remove RWX, okay, for this user, right? With respect to what? With respect to this file, okay? We can either say want to remove read, or want to remove write, or want to remove execute, or we can even say want to remove everything, right? In respect of just this user, right? So if we do that, we need to specify the file name, right? We can say linux.txt, right? Want to remove all permissions, right? So if we do that, let's see what we get, right? I'll say ls-l, okay? So sometimes you use your top arrow button to navigate. You can see that's what I'm doing. To move fast, you can use your top arrow button to move, okay? You can see I'm moving, can navigate across all the different commands I've run before, okay? So ls-l now, you can see this user has no permission again. You can see 000, 000, 000, right? It's looking like a chicken without feather, right? All permissions have been stripped, okay? So this is what is possible, right? We've removed all permissions, right? But also, we might say, okay, now that's aggressive. How can you remove all permission? Even you, as the owner of the file, will not be able to read it. That's what it means, okay? So if I say, I want to cast this linux.txt, let's see what it would say. Because I don't even have a read permission, right? Linux.txt. Permission denied. This is my file. I can't even read it, right? Because there is no read permission, not to talk about even a write permission, right? So all permissions are gone for that file. You can see permission denied, right? I can't even run my cat command, as simple as it is, to see the content of the file because I do not have a read permission, okay? So now that we've established that, remember we talked about Ugo, right? We talked about Ugo. So we can as well say, instead of saying show mode, instead of just saying show mode and you can say, okay, Ugo, want to call this, okay? Show mode, Ugo. Ugo, U for user or owner, G for group, and O for others. And for Ugo, for everybody, I want to add a read permission for everybody. I can say Ugo plus R in respect of linux.txt. Okay? Ugo plus R in respect of linux.txt. So what we want is to say, we want us to have an area, an area, an area for user, that's the owner, for the group, and for others, right? So that's what we are trying to achieve with this. Ugo plus R dot, then we specify the file name, okay? So now that we've done this, if I do ls-l, you see that there's now a read permission, a 444 permission, right? Across board. So if I now try to cut that file, let's see, let me use the top arrow button. If I now try to cut this file now, will I be able to read it? You see, I'm now able to read this file. But will I be able to write on the file? When I say write, I mean modify the file, okay? If I come here and I say vi into linux.txt, right? You can see I to insert is saying W10, warning, changing a read-only file. You can see, I can't even modify this file. For me to be able to modify the file, I need to escape, column, Q, right? Escape, column, Q, exclamation. Okay, so for me to be able to read this file, I need a permission, right? I need a permission. What I need is a write permission. So I can say for user, please add write. You can see, add a write permission, okay? And I do this. If I do ls-l, you see that user or owner now has a write permission, right? If I go up there and try to now vi into that file and type my I to insert, you can see I'm now able to make modifications to the file, right? I'm now able to write on the file, right? So let me come and write something. Yes, we did it. Okay, so with this, we'll come to an end of directory file maintenance commands, okay? But they're not done, okay? So escape, column, WQ, okay? So we are out, you see, we are able to modify that file, right? We are now able to make modification to that file. If you see here, the weight, the size of the file here was 1701, right? So if we come here and do our ls-ltr, you can see the size has now increased from 1701 to 1721, okay? So now that we've done this, let's look at text editing commands, okay? Text editing commands. Now, we just did a text editing just now, right? Using the VI command, right? We said VI is a text editor used in Linux. Then we could also use Vim, okay? So we can use Touch to create a file. So also we can use Vim to create a file. When you use VI or Vim to create a file, or even Nano, what happens is that the file is created and is also opened simultaneously, okay? Whereas when you use Touch to create a file, you are just creating the file. It doesn't open up the file for you to modify, okay? So you use your Touch, okay? And you also use your Touch, then you also use your VI or Vim, right? So we've used VI, okay? So let's see what happens if we try to use Vim to open the same file, right? See, remember, we use VI, linux.txt. But if we say we want to use Vim, what happens? It says command not found. But Vim is supposed to be a text editor. Why are we not able to find the command? Okay, you see, this expression you see is going to be a common expression in the course of this program. But when you see this expression, what should come to your mind is that it is either you have run the command wrongly, okay? But if you are sure that you didn't run it wrongly, it means that the application or the program or the software required to run the command is not available, okay? So you see this, right? You see this in this program. So there are two things that will happen if you see this. It is either the application is not available, okay? Or you have run the command wrongly, okay? For example, we all know that ls-vi, okay, mode, right, is this, right? If I now come here and now say shimodi, right, or something like this, and I do this, what do I get? Command not found. But in this case, Command not found is not because the application is not available. It is because I entered the command wrongly, okay? But I know Vim is correct, okay? So what I will do is that I will install Vim. Remember the way we installed tree at the beginning of the course, right? The way we installed tree, we are also going to install Vim, okay? So to install Vim, you use sudo yum install Vim, okay? Sudo yum install Vim. You can see this yum is the command, is the package manager, okay? Install is the command, and Vim is the application, right? And this application is inside this package provided by Red Hat, okay? If we're using a different, we talked about different distribution, right? Maybe Ubuntu, right? With Ubuntu, there's nothing like yum. It's apt-get, right? Or apt, right? So now that we are here, we'll be using yum, okay? But as we proceed in the program, we'll also be creating some Ubuntu servers to understand how Ubuntu servers work. Because in the course of your work or during interviews, they could ask about the distributions you've worked with, okay? So if you've worked with Red Hat, just as we are working with Red Hat now, we can also say you know how to use CentOS, because CentOS was built out of Red Hat, okay? And if you know how to use Ubuntu, you can claim ability to use any Debian-based application, okay? Because they have similar commands, okay? Although commands are uniform, right? Like Vim and all of that, but there are some specific commands that are related to some distributions, like this one that we looked at, yum, right? It's the package manager. We want to install Vim, okay? Say sudo is the power we have to run it. Yum is the package manager. Install is the command, and Vim is the application, right? So if we run this now, you can see it's asking us, is this okay? I say yes. You can see lowercase y. Now you can see it's installing Vim, okay? So Vim and VI, they work the same way. You can see Vim linux.txt. Now I run this, I won't see anything like command not found, okay? See, you can see with Vim, I'm also able to open this file. You can see, if you scroll down, you can see the modification we made to the file. Right? You can see the modification we made to the file. Okay. Yes, we did it. You see, I'm able to use Vim. I'm able to use VI. Okay. So there might be a situation where you are trying to search something, right? This is not quite an heavy file. Okay. I might say I want to look for versatility. You can see we have versatility somewhere here. And I open this file. I see versatility. I'm looking for versatility. I can type versatility. You can see it takes me to where versatility is. Okay. You can see this one versatility up here, right? You can see versatility, right? It takes me to versatility, right? So this is how you use this command, right? Use versatility. You can use this to search, okay? So also, you might want to say, let's see what we get if we do this. Okay, if I use lowercase, you can see. If I try to type something here, you see, I'm able to type. okay? Security, versatility, okay? So you can see now I'm in insert mode, okay? I'm in insert mode. If I want to type something in a text editor, you need to enter I. Letter I, will enable you to insert, okay? So when you click on I, you can see it brings out the insert mode, okay? Then you can go in there and make modification. You can see everywhere there was versatility, it was showing up, okay? Because we searched, okay? So we can come here and type insert, then we say we are doing good, right? Doing good, right? We've inserted and we've typed into this file, okay? Let us assume that, oh, when I was typing this, I was in a right frame of mind. I know what I'm doing, okay? And I want to save this file, right? What I need to do is that at the top of my keyboard, okay, if you look at your keyboard, at the topmost left, you see escape. If you are using a Windows computer, that's what I see here. You see escape, okay? When you press the escape, you see that the insert disappears, okay? Then semicolon, right? No, not semicolon, colon actually, okay? You press colon, okay? For me to press colon, I need to press shift to access colon. You see, the colon that I press is displayed there, okay? So the next thing I want to do, because I want to save this file, I will say W. Remember W is for write. It's like saving, right? Then I say Q to quit, okay? Then I press enter, okay? Because I know the modification I made, I actually wanted to make the modification. You see, everything we've done here with Vim is exactly the same thing we'll do with Nano, okay? Vim and Nano will use the same command. You see, we search for a file for the content by using the /, right? Okay, or is it that's the backslash? Is that it? No, /, okay. So we use that to search whatever it is you want to search, okay. Now, to make an input, to make an entry, you press I to insert, to enter edit mode, okay, which we did. So once we did that, we now gently looked at how we can save, okay. To save, we pressed escape, we pressed colon, then we pressed W, then we pressed Q, right? Save and quit, write and quit, WQ, okay? But to enter, to leave that mode, okay, you need to press escape first, insert mode, then put colon before entering what you are doing, okay? But let's say I'm feeling a bit sleepy, okay? I'm feeling sleepy and I entered I, and you can see the effect of my sleep on the screen. You can see I'm just pressing rubbish, right? Then at a point, I just realized that, oh, mistake. I need to exit without saving, okay? I need to exit without saving. Remember, to save the other time, we wrote W and we wrote Q, okay? We wrote W and we wrote Q, okay? We saved, then we quit, right? But this time around, we do not intend to save. So as much as possible, we want to avoid W, right? So we go back, escape, remember escape at the top. That's taking us out of insert mode. We enter colon, right? You can see colon. We don't want to enter W because if we enter W, we are saving, okay? Rather, we say we quit. But if you just say you quit, okay, let's look at this. If you just quit, you see, the program is such that this program realizes that, oh, you've made modification. Are you sure you just want to quit? Right? Are you sure that you just want to quit? Okay. If I try to quit now, I'm going to have issues. It won't allow me to quit. Okay. If I press enter, you can see, Ogbeni, you've written, oh, are you sure that you want to quit? Because it is not impossible that I've written a lot of programs, right? I've done a lot of work and I mistakenly press Q without pressing W, right? So this is like a safeguard to protect me, okay, from losing my work, okay? So now I see this, okay? It tells me to press exclamation, right? Okay, hash, exclamation, okay? So let's see, I to insert, okay? See, I to insert, right? So it expects me to put an exclamation behind my Q just to be sure that I know what I'm doing, that I'm not just quitting, okay? Because to put exclamation takes another effort because I need to go and press shift before pressing exclamation on my computer, right? So what I want to do is to say escape, right? Remember the same thing we did before, column, quit, but I'm very sure I want to quit without saving. So I add this hash, right? Exclamation, bang. Okay? So if I do this, you see, I'm out. So if I go back to the file, you see, I've opened it. That rubbish that I've typed while feeling sleepy, I see that it didn't have any effect. But you see, we've opened this file already. Let us say we realize that, oh, this is not the file I'm supposed to open. What do? I can just come here, escape, column. Q alone will be sufficient this time, okay? You know why? Because right now, I have not made any modification, so there's no caution. You can see how we've navigated, right, between using WQ for what we actually want to save and using Q exclamation and using just Q, okay? So, but in most cases, okay, people tend to use Q exclamation a lot, okay, because of understanding, right? Some people might not understand the basis of certain things, right? Some people might not understand the basis of certain things. Okay, so that is why you have it this way. So that is what I'm trying to explain so that we can understand why you see some people using Q and some people just, but Q alone will not be sufficient when you've made modifications. So some people just go ahead and use Q exclamation, okay? So now, if you look at that file that we've created, that we are looking at, we look at that file, let's open it again. You can see we are looking at text editing commands, right? You can see the most important of them all is I to insert, right? So another very important one is to save, because what's the point in making modifications without knowing how to save, right? So we've also looked at that. We also looked at how we can navigate a big file, right? We've seen how we can navigate a large file, right? So, and we can also go back into that file and see what else we can do, okay? If you look at this, right? Remember, we ran some commands earlier, right? We ran some commands and we're able to see that we could check the number of lines and all of those things, right? Okay, so let's quickly look at that. Let's just Q. Okay, so you can say WC, remember WC command, linux.txt. right? Tells us we have 82 lines, 278 words, 1740 characters for this file, right? So let's say we want to go into that file, okay? Let's vim into that file. I want to see the numbering of the lines, okay? So we can do escape column, right? You always use this escape column, okay? Before running some things, right? While using the text editor. Escape column. So now we want to set number. Set number. Okay. Set number. Okay. Okay. We want to set number. Okay. When you run this command here, it will display the number on the page, right? You can see. Tells me I have how many lines? 82 lines. Remember, when we use our WC command, it told us we have 82 lines. This is just to confirm that we have 82 lines. You can see C number or set number. Set, S-E-T, right? Number, N-U-M-B-E-R, right? But we have just 2 characters for each of these, right? So this one sets number, okay? If for some reasons we do not want to see number again, right? We can come here, escape, column, right? Set no number, right? Set no, right? You can see the number is gone, okay? So these are some ways you can work on, okay? You can work on this, okay? For example, you might want to navigate to a particular line, okay? Let's say you want to navigate to escape. Let's navigate to a line, okay? So let's say we want to navigate escape column. Let's navigate to line 35. See, this takes us straight to line 35, okay? Let's say we want to navigate, but for us to really appreciate this, let's set our number again. Set number, okay? Right, you can see line 35. Let's say we want to escape column. Let's say we want to go to line 58, right? You can just type 58, see? Takes us to line 58, right? So these are some of the things you can do with some text editing commands, right? There are some shortcuts, right? But the most important of them all are the ones I mentioned earlier, right? Where you use to insert and you also save, okay? You also save, you also you also choose not to save, right? Depending on what you want to achieve, right? So these are some of the commands, right, for text editing, okay? So if you recall that I mentioned that what we've provided is just for VI and Vim, okay? And we also said that there's another one called Nano, okay? There's yet another text editor called Nano, but VI and Vim are about the most popular, right? Because almost all the applications you'll be working on, they'll be based on VI and Vim, right? So understanding some of these commands will really help, okay? So for example, let's say we come here, okay? We highlight this cursor, press DD, okay? You can see that line is deleted, okay? You can see, you can come here, you can scroll down. Let's scroll down to the one we can easily see. Let's say, yes, we did it, this line, okay? And press DD, okay? With DD, okay, you delete a line completely. You can see all I did was to highlight the entire line and pressed dd. Okay, so dd will delete a line. Okay, so you can see these are some good shortcuts you could use. dd will delete a line. Okay, and if you want to go to a particular item, okay, let's say I want to go to something like, let's say escape column, escape column, escape column, uh, escape column. I want to search for something. Let's see.
Question.
Okay, correct. Thank you.
What you just did with DD, if it was a mistake,
Yeah.
can you restore it back?
Yeah. If you've done the DD and
Right.
it was a mistake, what you can do to restore is that you can quit without saving. Remember, escape column Q, right? Escape column Q without saving. Escape column Q without saving. That will ensure that what you've done does not save, right? Because you'd have added the hash, the exclamation mark. Okay, so that way it won't get saved. So I can say, let's say introduction, I'm searching for introduction, right? So then pattern not found. Let me see. Don't I have introduction here? I thought there was introduction. Okay, so let's just escape without saving. Escape without saving. Okay, so now we go ahead and check this. Okay, let's see. I want to be sure. Why is telling me something like introduction? Intro. I thought we saw something like that. Introduction to Linux. Oh, probably because it's uppercase, right? So definitely because it's case sensitive. Let's say introduction. You can see it takes us there, right? Because we specified introduction. Okay, it takes us there. Search it button, continue at the top. Okay. See, introduction. That's about the only place where it is. Okay. But if we look for something else, let's say we want to search for something, let's say distribution. Hope we have it. Or user. Let's say you're searching for user. Escape. Column. Slash user. Right. You can see everywhere we have user, it displays it, right? You can see. I'll see user here, user there. You see, it makes us, it helps us to identify what we are looking for, right? It helps us to identify what we are looking for because we have specified and it's highlighted in a particular color. That way, if you are searching for something in a very long list, you have an idea how to pinpoint it. Okay, so and that was a very good question because it is possible you mistakenly mess up a file. Okay, you could mess up a file, which has happened a lot. Okay, so when you mess up a file, to ensure that it doesn't save, you want to use your escape column escape column Q exclamation, right? Escape column Q exclamation. Okay, so this is what we have seen with this. Okay, so there's also nano. Okay, so let's say the same file we've been working with, escape column Q. Let's say the same file we've been working with, we want to now use nano. Okay, same way. Okay, nano. Okay, you can see it says command not found. So remember what we did the other time? We had to install, right? sudo yum install nano, right? But if I don't want it to prompt me to say, oh, answer the yes or no question, I'll just put this from the start. Y -y from the start. But I don't want stories, just install this for me. I know what I'm doing, right? So you can see it didn't ask me any question whether to go ahead or not, right? Because of the -y flag that I added, okay? So now, if I try to run my nano, you see, it's able to now display nano, right? You can see it's able to display nano, right? So it shows me 82 lines, right? 82 lines, 82 lines. And with nano, you see, it gives some guidance, right? It gives some guidance at the bottom, but usually we don't get to, we get to use VI most of the times, okay? Show some direction here, okay? With this control O, we save, okay? File name to write, right? Control X, right? We exit, okay? File name to write, right? Okay, so Control X will exit. Okay, so this is nano for you. Okay, so you can just play around with it, right? But VI and Vim are about the popular ones, right? You can see nano, right? So with nano, you can see Control G, right? Takes you to, it's already telling you F1 display the help test, you know, XX does this, you know, Control O, right? Control R, right? So just do Control X to exit, Control X to exit, okay? So with Nano, you get to see some guidance here and there, okay? But usually it is the other one, okay, that is used, VI and V. But now let's look at something, okay? What we can look at is if you see that when we wanted to install, we use sudo yum install, right? It is also possible that you choose to remove a program, right? So to remove a program, we use sudo yum remove. Let's say I want to remove nano. I use sudo yum remove. Remove, you uninstall, okay? Sudo yum remove nano, okay? So you can see, if I try running my nano command again, you can see it says no such file or directory, right? It doesn't see nano because look at this, okay? In the bin directory, there was nano. But because we uninstalled, it has also deleted that command. So it's not working again, okay? So it's not working again. So that is with nano, okay? So now that we have done this, let's see if we can use the remaining time, the little time remaining, to quickly take a look at some data backup commands, okay? Data backup commands, okay? Data backup commands. For example, I want to zip a directory, right? You can see, let's see, maybe we want to, if we check here, let's see my downloads. This is my downloads here, okay? If you look at this, just trying to relate what you must have been familiar with, okay? If you look at this, you see this is a folder, right? And this is a compressed zip folder or a file, right? Where MobileXterm, when we downloaded it, it came in a compressed zip folder, right? I see the compressed zip folder. And this is a regular file, while this is a folder, right? So also we can convert a directory to a zip, right? We can convert a directory to a zip, okay? So to do that, for example, let's take a look at our home directory, okay? So usually run this to ensure that when you run this, you want to ensure that at the end of the day, you've been able to compress what you have, right? Like saving them, like for backup, right? You want to compress the content that you have, okay? So to compress the content that you have, let's cd dot dots to go to home. We're moving a step upwards, and let's do ls. If you do tree, if you run a tree command, okay, you see, we can see that this class 101 has all this content in it, right? This class 101 has several contents in it. Okay, when I say let's zip class 101, okay, let's zip class 101 and say we want to back up that class 101. We can say let's say zip, okay, this is zip command, right? And we'll say dash r, okay, zip dash r. We specify the file name class underscore 101, okay. Okay, let's say we want to make class underscore 101 backup, right? Let's say backup underscore backup, okay, dot zip, okay. Want to create a zip file, right? Okay, dot zip, okay. Then from where are we generating it? From class 101, okay. This is the directory. We are trying to zip this directory, right? We want to zip this directory. So let's run this command and see what we get. You can see it says command not found, okay? So what we need to do is to sudo yum install zip, okay? -y, okay? An application called zip, okay? Just as we needed tree, okay? So there are some applications you need to install for them to work, okay? Because not everybody uses it, okay? So, but in our case, we want to use zip command, okay? Then we need this -r flag, okay? So what we are trying to create, this could be anything, okay? It could be ademola.zip, it could be backup.zip, it could be tamedun.zip, okay? But what are we zipping? The directory we are zipping, we need to specify that, okay? So if we run this now, you can see, if we now do ls-ltr, let's see what we see. We can see there's a zip file created from this directory. You can see this has been created from this, okay? This is a zip file, okay? So usually zip files are created for backup, okay? If we run our tree command, you're able to see class 101.zip, and you're able to see all of this under class 101. But under zip, you don't see anything. Everything has been compressed, okay? So this is why applications with several components, right? You download MobileXTEM, you download Git Bash, and it comes on your computer, just comes as a single file. You can even attach it and email it to somebody. But can you attach a folder and email to somebody? No. But this you can attach an email, right? You can send as a single file, right? But you can't attach this. You need to come and click on the content, right? So for distribution, that is why even those applications come in zip files, right? They come in zip files. So now that we've zipped, we should also be able to unzip, right? Just as we've zipped, we should be able to unzip, okay? So we can unzip in the current location, and we can decide to go and unzip somewhere else, right? If you remember, when we're discussing about the temporary directory, the TMP directory. We said the TMP directory can be used to store temporary files, right? And they can be used to share files between different people. If I'm EC2 user and Lagwaja is somewhere and I want to share a file with Lagwaja, all I need to do is just to dump it in the zip file, in the temp file, temp directory, I mean, okay? So to dump in the temp directory, it's possible, and we can also extract in the current directory, okay? So if I say I want to extract in the current directory, and I do not want, okay, let's just extract, let's try extracting in the current directory, because I've renamed this, it's no longer class underscore 101, it's class underscore 101 dot backup, okay? So I can extract here, okay? Let's see. To extract, when you zip, okay, to extract a file from a zip file, you use the command unzip, okay? Unzip, with unzip, you can extract, okay? So unzip, okay, what's the name of the file? Name of the file is class 101.backup, right? Right, we can say class 101.backup, class 101, right? You can see this is the file name. I want to unzip that file. It means I want to extract the contents, right? I don't want it in zip format again. Okay, class 101 underscore backup.zip. And I want to extract it just here, right? Or I can specify a directory that I want it to go, okay? I can either specify a directory I want it to go by specifying a -d flag and say I want it in /tmp. But let's see what happens if I try to put it here. Okay, you can see archive, replace. You can see now there's a problem. It's asking that, do I want to replace class 101? You can see, because this is where the extract was from, right? It's giving me options. Do I want to replace class 101? I either press Y for yes, N for no, A for all, capital letter N for no, none, or R for rename. I want to rename. Okay, let's rename it because I don't want conflict. Okay, so new name. What new name should we call this? Let's call it class underscore 201, right? Class underscore 201. Okay, now I've set a new name. So it's asking, should you replace class underscore 101? Okay, class underscore inflating this. Do you want to replace it? Let's just say yes, I don't care, right? You can see now it's inflated that. Okay, so if we do our tree command again, okay, you can see class underscore 201, okay, I have class underscore 201, but class underscore 201 didn't seem to capture some of the contents, right? So if I ls class underscore 201, right? Let's see. I see the only thing I see here is still class underscore 201, right? It's looking messed up, right? So what I can do to avoid this kind of situation is to do what I wanted to do initially, right? And specify, I want to use unzip, still here to be unzipped. I want to go and specify a directory where I want to dump it. The reason why we're having that conflict is because this class 101 still exists here, okay? So there's a conflict. So if I go to a different directory, let's say I don't even want to go to /tmp, I want to come inside feb class, okay? I can come inside feb class, right, and dump it there, okay? You can see. If I now do my tree command now, you can see inside feb class, I have class 101 that has feb class again, and feb class copy, and all of this. You can see we have a duplicate of what we have out here. We now have them in here, okay? So this is how you use the zip command, okay? Now, apart from zip, okay, there's also tar, okay? Tar also does the same thing that zip does, okay? So we can use tar to do the same thing we are using zip to do, okay? We can use star to do the same thing that zip does, okay? To use star, you say star, right, dash CVF, okay? Star dash CVF, then what's the name? Let's say we want to call it class 101, or this time around, let's use Feb class, okay? Let's call this Feb class backup, okay? Backup, okay? Feb class backup dot star. This is a tar file, okay? See, this file name could be anything, okay? But what is more important here is this star dash CVF, then there could be anything, okay? So once we do this, we now space, what are we trying to change? What's the directory, right? The directory name is Feb class, right? Feb class is directory, okay? So if you do this, you can see, unlike zip that we needed to install, okay, with tar, you don't need to install. If we do your tree command, okay, you see that we have Feb class backup data, right? We now have this, just as we have this, add this .zip. So also, for us to extract this, is just a simple process, okay? So I want to bring this back. So tar, unlike zip, where we use unzip, okay? With tar, you still use tar, okay? But this time around, instead of using CVF, okay? Once you use XVF, okay? So for the first one, we can see it as we use CVF, like copy VF, right? CVF. But this time around, we are trying to extract XVF, right? XVF, that will help us remember it. tar-XVF, we are trying to extract. What are we trying to extract? We are trying to extract this file, right? Where do you want to extract the file? Okay, where do you want to extract this file? We want to extract it. We can choose to extract it where we want to have it. Okay, so to extract it, let's say we want to extract it and put it inside match class. Okay, I'll come here and say match class. Okay, match class. Okay, so when you do this, it says nothing found tar Feb class that archive. Okay, mark class not found. Okay, so I think I forgot to put the -d, right, to indicate the directory. Okay, usage -d, you may not specify more than one. Okay, --delete, tar-help, tar usage, this. Okay, so or alternatively, we could just extract it where it is. Okay, I believe we copied it correctly. And just extract it where it is instead of trying to extract it into a directory. Okay, so if we run our tree command now, you see we have this Feb class dot tar. Okay, right? We have Feb class dot tar, and do you have Feb class anywhere else? This one we extracted. No. Okay, because it's the same file, it just overwrote it. Okay, so that is how we use our tar and the zip. Okay, so with this, we come to an end of today's session. So in the next class, we are going to be looking at other commands covering other areas that are also going to be very interesting, like looking for text reading commands and user management, where we create users, we create Lagbaja, we create Tamedu, we create all of those good people, right, of this world. Okay, so do we have questions?
No, no question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you
So
very
we'll
much.
meet in the next session. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye for now.
Bye.
You too. Bye. So recording.